Hi, this is Kunal from Finna, and I wanted to talk about one of the important things that I think in our business, when we were running Perch, we used to find that that was one big source of sort of leakage. And I think that's the same case for almost all property businesses, guest houses and service apartments and motels, hotels, PGs. So I think cash, which continues to be about, I mean, 20 to 30% of all revenues, and I would say about probably 20 to 30% of all costs are in cash. So as you can see, potentially that's your entire margin, and any leakage here is a big source. And generally, how people would do it, and that's how we used to do it as well, was that having a cash register. Now, in any cash book, there are four inputs. There are basically two inputs and two outputs. So, and I mean that's how you would have a cash register. And I think there are lots of problems that we also had, like shift changing over, and then people paying in cash, doing expenses in cash, taking out the money in cash. So there is absolutely, it's very hard in this register, like this is the cash register, to do any kind of reconciliation, and that potentially becomes a big source of, as I said, 20 to 30%. So even if you're losing 5-10%, that's your 5-10% of your margin. And of course that takes away a lot from your P&L, and therefore your the company's financial health. Now in this register there are basically two inputs, and I'll mark these in green. The first input is your client payments. So anything that they pay, whether they're paying for check-in, whether they're paying at the time of checkout, or they're paying F&B, anything that comes in, right? And the other one, of course, is if there is any money that you're putting in. So money in, which may be some money that you may be putting into the register, giving it to the manager or whatever. And of course, there are two outputs. If there are any refunds, right? And of course, there are any expenses. Now, at the end of any shift, you should be able to tally this up and do a cash reconciliation and get to a zero number. Let's say if there's like 100, and then you give out 100 and that becomes zero. So at the end of every shift, it should become zero. And that's what we also figured out, like, it's very hard to do this just because there's so many moving parts. So in Finnar, we've actually created the cash register, and now it helps a lot, because every shift, so if you've got shift one, let's say that goes from whatever 0 hours to 10 hours, and then 10 hours to 20 hours, and then 20 hours to 30, whatever, 20, 6 a.m. or whatever. Now, every shift that ends, every shift, there is a reconciliation at the end of it. Now, what that helps is that this shift ends as 100, it becomes zero, it gives on to the other shift. So, therefore, all of this gets tallied up and inputted and shown in terms of who actually got the money. And this has dramatically changed the whole scenario in terms of cash reconciliation, and finally we're able to get the exact number of amount of money. So this is something that at one of the things that we are inculcating or building into our system at Finna. And obviously we take a lot of feedback from clients, and so that's something that would be helpful. And I'm obviously open to ideas, and I don't have all the answers, or my team doesn't have all the answers, but if you can leave it in the comments if there's any better way of doing it, that'll be really good. Okay, thanks a lot, Kunal from Finna.